Now, questions have been raised about what should be the right time for women to speak out against abuse. This comes in the wake of an emotionally charged Instagram video in which TV personality and actress Amanda Dupont accused musician and TV personality Jup Jup of rape. For more on this, I'm joined by Christian Wendler, Behavioral Interventions Programs Manager at Shout It Now. Ms. Wendler, thank you for your time today. It's 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, but I'm sure you will agree with me that these are the type of conversations that we are having and should be having every single day of the year, because abuse happens every single day of the year. What has come to the spotlight now is issues of timing. Women go through abuse, but they don't always speak out immediately. What have you found to be some of the reasons why women keep quiet after having endured abuse?
There's many reasons. Unfortunately, one of is just simply what you just said, how common it is. Globally, we see 1 in 3 women worldwide have faced physical and/or sexual abuse, the majority of those at the hands of their intimate partner. And so we have a massive pandemic on our hands, and that is highly normalized. We accept gender-based violence as a common aspect of our society. We have gender norms embedded in everyday conversations, workplace practices, how we raise our children. And as long as we allow these damaging gender norms to exist, we create an environment that is very hard to combat gender-based violence and very hard to not make it a major obstacle for a survivor to come forward. And that starts with each of us as individuals in our homes, in our workplaces. We have situations where we will identify that a woman has been raped by a partner or someone in the family, and the family will choose to support the perpetrator rather than the survivor. We have women who try to go to the police station to report a case, only to be told it's a domestic matter, go home and sort it out, or to not be believed or to be blamed for how the situation came about. These are all absolutely critical things that are obstacles in place of why a survivor can choose not to come forward.
Some of the reasons that you've highlighted there are some of the reasons that we've been hearing survivors speak of. When you talk about perhaps not being believed, one of the ladies who'd gone through abuse, Amanda Dupont, says that when she went to the police station to report this matter, she was told that she must go home and think about it because the police officer is tired of women coming in reporting abuse and then later on going back to the abusers. What can be done to ensure that there are safer spaces where women can go to report abuse and not be further victimized?
Absolutely. It's a multi-pronged. There's no simple answer to that question. So it starts with prevention and awareness raising in the beginning. So we need women across our society, and particularly young women as they grow up, to understand that it is their right to report. This is a human rights violation. It is a crime. So it is your right to report. It is your right to seek justice. So we need to empower that and embolden. And then we need to have access to services. So if an individual has been victimized, they need to be able to know that there are services available to them. So access to those services, clarity of where those services are, and then when those services are taken up, whether it's a clinic, whether it's in a mobile clinic like ours at Shout It Now, whether it's in a police station, we need to ensure that they are received with non-judgment and with care, dignity, and respect. And it doesn't matter whether we wear a badge or whether we are a lay person. If we hear, I've seen this happen, the first and most vital step is that we have to believe the survivor. That is such a critical step to allowing whatever can happen next. But if that survivor is met immediately with judgment and blame, her ability to her desire to be able to go forward and access any kind of justice and even services, immediate medical services, greatly diminishes. So it's absolutely vital. Public will, political commitment, financial resources, access to services, as well as then prevention before it ever happens. We have to do more.
Christian, I mean, what you've spoken about really speaks to the responsibility of the confidant that the victim has chosen to confide in, because oftentimes someone will tell you that they've been abused or that they've been raped, But what do you really do? So what you're saying is really, first and foremost, believe them. It's not about questioning what they're telling you. And then after believing them, what then? What are the next steps? Because at that point, they may not be in a physical or mental state that is strong enough for them to be able to make their own decisions or even move forward at that particular time.
Well, I think most importantly, it is to understand that there's a psychosocial component to this, and there's an immediate medical component. So in the situation of rape, there is a window that we have in which we can provide a survivor with PEP, which is post-exposure prophylactic. That is, that we can prevent HIV transmission within a 72-hour window after the incident. We also can administer emergency contraception to prevent the risk of pregnancy. So those have a window to them, and it's important that if someone comes forward and discloses that they have been raped in particular, that window on those medical services is ticking. And so making sure that you are able to, the Tutu Zella Care Centers are obviously key components from the government that are accessible to individuals, as well as then services like ours, where an individual can contact us and we can go and serve that client. We will transport a client who comes to us, we will take them to a facility, we will help them to report. And there's many other good organizations like us doing that work for survivors. So if you have someone come forward to you, please call call Lifeline, call the GBV Command Center with Social Development, reach out to an organization like us, and we can direct you to the services and we can assist.
Christian, before I let you go, let's talk about the issue of time. If years go by before a person actually confesses or says that they've been through a rape, how does that time period affect the veracity of that case and that case being prosecutable? Does time and the passage of time compromise an individual's experience and even the legal case that might pursue should they decide to go that direction?
Well, I think the most important thing is that we first and foremost need to look at this from the rights of the survivor. So regardless of how much time has passed, this is a part of this individual's life. This is a trauma and a crime that individual has been through. And those wounds, that healing, that self-care there's no time limit on that. So I think that importantly, it doesn't matter if the case was last week or the case was last year. For that individual, how fresh and how painful and how that individual can be triggered is all very individual. And so regardless of the time frame, from a psychosocial standpoint, it's very important that each survivor is served with care and dignity. As far as legally, that is a case-by-case basis, and it depends. But the ability to report and access to that justice, and for some, again, every survivor needs different things. If I have been a survivor, the idea of me just being able to go and report, that might be, even if it's 3 years later, 5 years later, that might be such a huge emotional step for me and growth step in my healing process. Whether I ever see a day in court is secondary to that ability to report and to be believed. So it's very important that we balance, first and foremost, the psychosocial needs of the survivor, and then to be able to look at it on a case-by-case basis where it comes from a legal perspective of being able to have a case. But also people need to be aware the legal proceedings, that first step of being believed, of being able to report it and being taken seriously, that is a vital, important step that we as a society need to ensure is available to every survivor.
Christian Wendler, thank you so much for your time and for your counsel this afternoon. She is a Behavioral Interventions Programs Manager at Shout It Now, one of the organizations that provides support for women who have undergone gender-based violence. During this time, the message is speak out, use your voice, report it, insist on reporting it. It is your right. And if this abuse has been reported to you, believe the perpetrator. That is the message, and assist them to get justice at the end of the day. And as Christine says, icala alboli. Time is not a factor.